Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nara from 137 Ventures, and I'm glad to welcome you today to our webinar. Feel free to introduce yourself and your startup, what you're working on in the chat box, and we'd love to hear from you. We will be answering any questions at the end of the session, so just keep them coming. Just keep the chat box active. Okay, so today's session is part of our launch for the upcoming 64th cohort of Alpha Startups, our pre-accelerator program. A 10-week hybrid program takes Southeast Asian founders from idea to launch and beyond. The upcoming cohort is industry agnostic, but we're looking more into deep tech, AI, SME, B2B solutions, and decarbonization technologies. The upcoming cohort is also open to startups from across Southeast Asia. Think of Alpha Startups Pre-Accelerator as an intensive bootcamp guiding new and aspiring entrepreneurs on how to start and run a startup business. To learn more, visit the link that we will be sharing shortly in the chat box. Okay, just share the link. Feel free again to introduce yourself and your startup. We'd love to hear from you. So here are some of the program benefits. The 10-week program will be delivered in a hybrid format with virtual sessions and in-person sessions here in KL. Let me share with you some of the cohort program benefit that you may get out of this cohort. As you can see on the screen, you'll get 10 hours plus of mentoring, fundraising support, digital credit, office space, corporate access, and also market access. You can visit the link in the chat box to apply and find out more about the program. Okay, so let's jump into why we are here today to discover what it's like building an AI startup. Every day, procurement teams worldwide waste hours manually reviewing vendor proposal, a tedious and error-prone process. For Malaysian enterprises, this inefficiency means delay, ballooning costs, and also lost opportunities. But what if AI could change that? Enter Laminar, a Malaysian AI startup pioneering autonomous intelligent agents to automate the RFP process, helping companies instantly evaluate vendors and make smarter procurement decisions. So today we have Joshua Teh, the founder and CEO of Laminar, with us. As the founder and CEO of Laminar, Joshua leads the team in developing AI solutions that tackle real-world business challenges. Today's discussion will be framed around 4 key themes. We'll start with Joshua sharing Laminar's story, how the idea took place and evolved, followed by the current AI landscape. Joshua, as an AI founder, he'll be sharing what's the opportunities and challenges that he finds in this AI landscape, and he'll also be sharing some practical tips and lessons that can help you scale your startup. So as I mentioned earlier, he'll be answering your questions at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, feel free to share them in the chat. So let's dive in today. Joshua, hello, and thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today.
Hi, Nara. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. Yeah, like I said earlier, we want to keep this session as candid as possible. So I know we are sort of in a webinar, but I imagine us in a room, and we are a room full of founders or people who are thinking about making the leap into becoming a founder themselves. So before we start, right, can I just get, because I know you can react, can I just get a show of hands of who is already who has already founded a startup and is kind of in that journey? Okay, very nice. Actually, you can react from the smiley face at the bottom. Oh, that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot of you. Nice. Okay, and who is thinking of maybe you're still working a job, but you have this startup idea and you're thinking of whether you want to pursue it or not? Can I get a show of thumbs up? Okay, we have one person. Okay, 2. Okay, cool. So I guess most of you are already startup and already on the journey. Oh wait, I see the show of hands as well from the hands raised that you guys are thinking about it. Yeah, great, awesome. So yeah, so what I'll do for the benefit of everyone here today is to really be like super candid and upfront about like our journey and take you behind the scenes of Laminar and what I've learned so far, so that maybe hopefully you can apply it to and speed up the process yourself. So starting with so Nara actually gave a pretty good introduction of where we are today, which is we're helping procurement teams like speed up the RFP process by bringing AI into the loop, because there is AI brings an advantage where compared to your old school like RPA and workflows automation, the LLMs bring an advantage of like you get to put some sort of thinking into the loop, so you can add some intelligence into your process flow, but it's not the silver bullet for everything lah. So finding that right use case is actually super crucial. And like again, behind the scenes, like this is not the first idea that we came up with. We have actually pivoted a lot since the since we founded the company, and it is a lot of hard work to try and find the right problems and the right solutions that have great enough impact to work on. And it's just part of the process. So I'm not going to tell you like this fancy story of how I stumbled across an idea and then like turned it into a solution, and now it's like it's super successful. No, it's a lot of hard work trying to talk to people, trying to realize like what are the areas, what are the bottlenecks that you can actually deliver value with. So this is who we are. Our current mission is to find operational inefficiencies to eliminate with the use of AI in a nutshell. Yeah, maybe we can move on to the next slide. Or Nara, I think you're on mute if I see you.
Yeah. So before we move on to the next slides, maybe we can just have a chat about, like in the beginning, what actually inspired you to start Laminar, and what were the pain points or opportunities that you saw?
Okay, great. So in the beginning, actually, this was during the end of 2022, actually beginning of 2023, when we decided to start this company. And that was actually like, if you look back at the timeline, that was actually the end of 2022 was when ChatGPT rolled out. And what we identified back then is that, oh, you could actually feed ChatGPT your information and connect it to your databases, so that you can have like a chatbot that is aware of your own data. And back then, this was like great stuff lah. It's like super interesting stuff. It put us in a lot of meetings with like big corporations who want to know how they can do it. But we have pivoted a lot since then, because like GPTs came out, the ChatGPT features became more and more extensive, and then the value sort of like started to deplete. So yeah, the thing about like, if we talk about AI startups in general, like we are also constantly trying to fight trying to find what makes our startup defensible against like the giants from a feature rollout killing your startup. And I know, like, if you follow the last Google launch event for all their new features, like I think they killed like half the market. So it's very important to like think of what makes your AI startup defensible against the oncoming wave of new feature rollouts from these giants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Since you mentioned earlier that you pivoted, right? In those first few months of Laminar, what were some of the key insights or challenges that actually helped shape the direction of Laminar it is today?
Okay, so in the first few months, I think it was easy for us to get meetings with customers, like meetings with like the C-suites and like the heads of department in like big corporations, even though we're just a small startup. It was easy to do that because the AI hype had just begun, right? And like for us to show a demo of like linking to data and all that, it was pretty impressive. So, but the key insight from from that period of the startup is that it's easy to get hype and garner interest, but like, are you really delivering value to them? Like, will it be able to convert into a paying client? Right? Because ultimately that's the metric you should be measuring for. And in general, people are nice lah, so they won't tell you upfront that your thing is not worthwhile, or they won't tell you to your face that you don't have a good solution. So it takes a lot of steps before you realize that whether you are delivering actual value that they are after or not. And nobody will tell you that. So that's the insight I would say from those early days lah.
You mentioned that you were actually like speaking to potential customers, help you realize what people really wanted from AI, right? So you discovered that it's not just information transfer, but AI doing the work for them. So how important it is for AI startup founders, because we have so many of them here today, how important it is for them to talk to their target users early on to truly understand the real problem AI should be solving.
Yes, so I think it's the most important part, especially at the beginning of the journey. Even before you incorporate or you go and look for funding and all, you should be already talking to clients and friends who are, with a big caveat, friends who would be able to criticize your idea, because friends are always like very supportive, and sometimes you need that person who will tell you your idea is shit, and like just get as much like feedback as possible, so that you can, like, if your idea is shit, it's okay, right? Because that's the beginning of the journey. That's the beginning of how you improve upon your idea. Or if it's really a shit idea, then you realize it's a shit idea, you should just drop it, because the effort that you spend on that idea can be channeled elsewhere into something better. So yeah, talking to people is very important at the start. Like, don't like protect your idea because your idea is like something that you think is worth like a lot of money, and it's like you're trying to keep it as a secret. Like, you should actually speak to as many people as possible.
Yeah. So what kind of conversations did you have with your potential customers to validate the problem and your proposed solution?
Okay, so we have had a lot of conversations with potential clients, and what I will say is that what we didn't do is we didn't present our solution to them. Instead, we ask a lot of questions. So we ask questions about where their bottlenecks are in their operations. We went down to the operational level to kind of figure out the step-by-step processes to kind of find where we can actually plug in a solution. And when we do identify something, like a problem, I think we always measure it according to a few things lah. One is, what is the impact? And the impact, you can think about it as like, how often does this problem, how often do people have to face this problem? How many people faces this problem? And what's the cost of the problem? So if you put on that lens and for every problem that you encounter, and you find the one that has the most impact, then you have something, right? That's the beginning of your journey. You're trying to find a solution for a well-defined problem that has high impact. So this is what the initial stage of your startup journey should be like, right? Looking for problems that are high impact. And
yeah. So maybe it'd be great for you to share with us, like, how did you actually help your client here in terms of how you help them in solving a pain point of theirs?
Okay, so again, like taking a step into the behind the scenes part of things, right? So so Kopiku is one of our clients. So we developed their mobile app for them, which we actually had to integrate to many different services, because they have the POS, they had a loyalty system, they have like payment gateways and there's and like all your mapping services and all that. So there's a lot of integration for workflows where we can where we were proposing AI automation for. And I guess the takeaway from this is that like at the start of the journey is like I can't really it's not wise to choose. You don't have the luxury to choose like who your clients are. So if a client requires you to do something more than what you're offering and you have the ability to do that, like in this case, develop an entire app for them, it I would say go for it. If you have the means to, because it would actually open up a lot more opportunity, because now you have your front and center of the problems, right? Like these guys, they have like 40 stores, and like there's a lot of operational issues or bottlenecks, not issues, that we encounter, and we're always constantly trying to solve it for them. So that's I wouldn't have that front row seat if I didn't take on this project. And at the start, like this is what you got to do. Maybe later on when I already like you've got your product market fit and all, then you shouldn't it shouldn't be what you're after, because you wanna build something that can scale. But at the beginning of the journey, I like this is what we got to do. So yeah.
Okay, so there's also another example here. Can you maybe share a few words on this?
Yeah, again, this is also another. Okay, let me see. So this is a glove manufacturer in Malaysia. They are using our so we're helping them with their internal processes, with their sales team, their procurement side. Again, like we start small with them, and we're looking at more and more things from the same client. So yeah, like while you're on the journey of finding the right product, I think it's important to kind of like follow. I mean, you can take my advice or not, it's up to you. But I think following the money is actually quite a good signal, because if you follow the money, meaning like if you follow whoever who would pay you for your solutions, then you are on the right track to finding your product market fit. And once you start doing that, you will find that actually the same client that you are offering services to have other areas that you can improve. So then you actually go into more adjacencies that you can then offer a better, more holistic solution to the rest of your market. Yeah. So
very interesting tip right there. I hope it's useful for everyone listening. What in terms of like building these solutions and getting a team, right, an AI team, what kind of AI talent did you need to build Laminar and like to create solution for your clients, and how did you go about finding or developing that talent, especially locally here in Malaysia?
Yeah, so it's really looking out for people who are hungry to be part of this AI journey or AI movement. Most of these guys that I'm working with, they are developers so they have coding and development background, but they are not to say like there's no one here has like 10 years of AI experience in terms of LLMs, because it just came out, right? So a lot of these guys that I'm working with, they are the talent that I'm after is like people who are hungry and people who are curious to go and pick up a new technology, and people who are interested to solve problems. So a lot of things we are learning on the way, and we are also learning that AI has a lot of limitations and how to go about overcoming them. So yeah, you need people who are passionate, I would say.
Okay. How about data privacy though? I mean, data privacy is like this critical topic in AI. Like how did you and your team approach data privacy and security, especially given the sensitive nature of procurement data?
Yes. Okay. So in terms of data privacy, there's several levels that you can go about it. We have some clients that we speak to who are absolutely like there's no way they can send their data through a API to a US company. So those guys, we have to look into on-prem solutions where we deploy deploy an LLM, like an open source LLM within their premises, and it will just work. Everything is air gap, so it will just work in the offline environment. And then one step before that, because that's like buying up like infrastructure to support your DeepSeek or your Llama models is not cheap. So one step before that would be using you're still using APIs, but you are redacting all the sensitive information before sending it through the APIs. And then once it comes back, you can then replace the information so the user feels to the user is seamless, but you're putting an extra additional layer of like I guess like encryption of like removing the sensitive information, and then once it comes back, you decrypt it with the sensitive information back to the user again. So these are some ways that you can go about.
Sounds
Yeah.
very technical.
I
You're
tried to
someone
run-
who's not like
tried to make
actually
it as
technical.
layman as I could already.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so if any of you guys got any questions, again, feel free to put in the chat box, and we'll be answering it later. Right next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into Joshua's thought on navigating the current AI landscape. So what he's done here is actually spoken about Laminar. If you have more questions for him on his journey, okay, feel free to leave it in the comment box at the side. So Joshua, so now we want to for you to share like your perspective as a founder and CEO. What is the real potential of AI right now versus the hype?
Okay, so I think the real potential of AI is that it would make like work 100 times more efficient, or yeah, it can make work 100 times more efficient, and it can make processes more automated. So imagine you're a lawyer and you put out maybe, I mean, you're a paralegal and you put out maybe like 10 documents a day. With AI, you can do 100, but you're still needed for the process, right? The human, I think the hype is where you think that AI is going to solve everything. I think a lot of times we think I see certain solutions is like you just throw AI at the problem and you expect it to work. A lot of times, actually, I think AI is actually just a tool in your toolkit. So some processes is actually better. Like it's like if you hand it over to like a RPA, right? Like a robotic process automation. It actually produces a more like a better output, because LLMs actually have their own problems that you need to solve for, and they're slower. So if you compare the differences, so they are just a tool in your toolkit at this stage lah. But in 20 years, like this is probably not the case already. But in 2025, I would say AI is just a tool in your toolkit. Don't think that it's the silver bullet for every problem out there, because there are more efficient solutions that already exist. Yeah.
Do you think it's like going to do you think AI will actually replace an experienced professional? Because like every day we have social media and there's so many videos talking about AI, and some of it actually seem pretty daunting and scary. Like, it can actually replace jobs.
Yes.
And a lot of people will just immediately go out of job. Do you think it can actually replace an experienced professional now or maybe in the future?
I think in 2025 it will not replace the experienced professional. It will increase the output of that experienced professional, so that the company don't need to hire so many experienced professionals. So in a way, it is kind of replacing, but it won't. You will still need that experienced professional there to take the blame, or to sign off on whatever AI has produced for them, right?
Yeah, the person navigating at the back.
Yes, there's still going to be that person, but it already like your job market will shrink because of that, because like one person is doing the job of 10. So that's it. That's 2025. In 5 years, 10 years, like I think all the lower level stuff will be completely replaced by AI. So a lot of lower level jobs are going to get replaced. If you don't know already, I think everybody in the room here is an AI, like trying to look to build an AI startup. And an AI startup essentially is the thing that I just described earlier about finding problems with highest impact is actually an active act to replace jobs, right? If you think about it indirectly, because you're looking for inefficiencies that AI can do, and eventually, like you don't need that many humans in the loop anymore. So everybody in this room, like, is pushing that agenda, right? So I don't know what that means to humanity. Maybe like I wish I did, but yeah, I'll leave it as that.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for all the aspiring AI founders here, what do you think are the biggest misconception or overlooked challenges when building an AI-driven product?
I think it's something that I already touched on earlier. Like I think the biggest misconception is that AI is the answer to everything, when like in reality it should only be taken as a tool in your toolkit. So it's not the right tool for everything. Like let me just put it that way. So I think that's the biggest misconception from what we've been seeing. Yeah. So yeah.
And again, from what you just shared, right, how important it is to identify the right problem to solve when it comes to building an AI startup. Because you mentioned that it's just a tool. So how important it is for them to identify the right problem to become a tool to solve when building an AI startup.
I think it's how where you want to prioritize it. If let's say if you found a high impact problem like described earlier, and AI is the right tool for the job, then you have an AI startup. And if that's what you're after, that congratulations, right? You have found your pot of gold. But if it's not an AI startup, then you have, like, if AI is not the right tool for the job, then you have to decide, right? Like whether it's something that you want to venture in. If let's say you're only interested to build an AI startup, it might not be the right problem for you to solve, but maybe in solving that you would then find other adjacent problems that AI can solve.
That makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. And what advice would you actually give other founders looking to build AI startups in Malaysia or in the region?
I would say, like, something that I described on our journey also, like, you should lead with value, because as a startup, your edge, your advantage is that you're that much more intense than anyone else up there. Your if you compare to everyone else, a startup doesn't have like strong track record, right? You're new, you're trying to find a solution. You don't have a portfolio, you don't have a lot of marketing dollar, right? But what you have is you have this ability to figure out the problem together with the client or whoever you're speaking with, or whatever market that you're targeting, and iterate quickly. So that's your edge. And as a startup founder, you have to make sure you recognize that, and make sure that you lead with value. And what I mean by that is, you if you're competing against other incumbents who have been around for longer, but you go up to the client and you bring them a working solution of the problem that they've described, that's your edge, right? Like no one else has done that, and the client's problem more intimately than anyone else. Then you have a strong chance to win. So that would be my advice, lah.
How about those who got no coding experience? Like, what would you say to them wanting to step
No
into
coding
the AI?
experience.
Yeah.
If you don't have coding experience, then hopefully you have like like you should be someone who can articulate your ideas and your vision well enough to inspire people with coding experience to come and join you in 2025 lah. Because there's a lot of vibe coding tools out there, and the output is just not production ready. So you still need to rely on like old school developers lah, right? But
So
the
there's
good news is that you might get away with just one CTO, one technical CTO, because AI is enabling him to do the work of 10.
so there's still hope for those who have no experience in coding, they're not developers, but they still want to like contribute to the AI landscape. There's still hopes for them, given that they
Definitely.
find somebody suitable to bring their
Definitely.
vision into reality.
Definitely. And if you are so inclined to, like, I also think you should go and learn how to do a bit of like coding and play around with cursor and get into the scene, like, because you in the past, right, if you wanted to like build a MVP, like maybe you needed to hire a whole developers team, right? But today, like a non-coding, a no-code experienced guy could probably do that, and that would be enough for them to go and sell the idea. And once you sell the idea and you get a client, maybe you go and hire the developers then.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So I can see that we have a lot of questions in the chat coming in. So
Awesome.
we'll, okay, before we jump into the chat, I have a few more questions to ask you, right? So, has been the biggest surprise in building Laminar that you didn't expect in the last few years?
Right. So I think the biggest surprise to me is how much luck actually has a role to play in success. And I think a lot of people don't acknowledge it, but actually luck is a very important factor for a startup. And it might sound a bit depressing at first because luck means that I have no control of it. But the truth is you do. If you think about it, luck is like chance, like a chance for a random occurrence to happen, right? Or but so let's say that's that chance. Okay, I guess I'm going to use the lottery for example, right? Like if you compare like one person who plays the lottery like once every year on his birthday versus somebody who plays it every single day, the person playing the lottery every day has a better chance than that birthday lottery guy, right?
Mm.
And I'm not encouraging. It's still zero lah, the chance, but so I'm not encouraging lottery, but yeah, that's what I mean lah. So what I realize is that luck has a big role, and the way that you can improve your luck, especially like starting out, is by giving yourself more opportunities for random encounters. So go for events, meet people, talk to people, put yourself out there. You know, I know a lot of us like cringe at self promotion. I also do, but it's the price of admission lah. If you want people to find you, if you want to go out and have more luck for yourself for all these random encounters, then this is what you have to do. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. That's great. Okay, so just to add on to what Joshua said, it's not to add on, he did mention like meeting people. So feel free to click the link on the chat and find out more about Accelerator program and sign up for it, and you can see where it takes you. So before we jump into the live Q&A, we actually received some questions beforehand. There's this question from Michael. His startup name is Too Great. Not sure if Michael is here. So his question was actually, he has three questions actually. So the first question is, Joshua, when you first came up with the idea, when you first ideated Laminar, were you actually doing full-time or part-time before MVP stage?
Okay, so full disclosure, I was actually working a job as well. So I didn't go in 100% on the idea. So yeah, so it was I mean, we are at the age. I mean, I am at the age where I have a family and kids to support. So I didn't have the luxury to go all in full time. So it took me a while. It took me about a year and a half before I went full on into the startup full time. Yeah.
And also, how committed were you in the ideation MVP, like the time spent per week or a day during that before pre-MVP stage?
Right. I think I was I was unhealthily committed. So I would be working nights, weekends. I would skip a lot of social hangouts with my friends so that I can work on this thing. And I hope none of my previous company guys are here, but I will also work on it like, you know, like
When you're
um
working on your full
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay, so do you already, like in the early age, right, early stage, were you already starting to network? And if yes, what purpose was your networking for?
um that's a good question. At the early stage, I was, but not as much. Um I think at the early stage, networking is important to kind of figure out because when you network and you tell people about your ideas, like your I mean, one, you're seeing their reaction. Two is also you're refining your your elevator pitch, right? So when people ask you questions and you respond, like you're getting closer and closer to becoming fluent at telling people what your startup is about. A lot of people struggle with that. So networking is one way to hone that part of being a founder, which is articulating your idea in the most concise manner or the most understandable way. So at the beginning, that's very important. And also you're also kind of seeing whether there are any opportunities and validating that idea. But I think at the beginning, you should also focus more on building building that startup. And once you have a very fine-tuned like product, then go all out networking, like trying to find your ideal customer profile.
Nice, nice. Okay, so I hope that Joshua's answers are insightful to those who are here. So let's take a look at the questions at the chat. There is Andre Teo. Andre Teo, his question is, how did you initially found and reach out to your first 10 customers? What was your approach there? The first question. Second question is, how do you price your solution? Can illustrate with a case example.
Okay, I'll take on the second question first. I think that's probably an easier one to answer. So how you price your solutions? If you can imagine, so just now I talked about value, right? If you can imagine any purchase decision that's being made, so even if yourself, like before you buy something, the thing that you're buying has a certain value in your mind. And the only way you're going to buy that thing is that if the cost of that thing is lower, right? So same thing with your pricing strategy. If you are trying to sell something of X value to the customer, the perceived value to the customer, your cost has to be lower than that. If your cost is higher than that, it's very hard for them to buy. So I hope that answers the question. So yeah. So if you and how like we can go into how to define that value in the monetary value, like in a different session, I suppose. But yeah, there are ways that you can calculate like how much that something solution is worth, and then you want to price that like right below that.
Okay, so another question was, how did you initially found and reach out to your first 10 customers?
Yeah,
What was your approach there?
so initially there was, again, like I mentioned, like there's no you don't have a whole lot of marketing dollar at the start. So I did a lot. I went to a lot of events. I met people. I spoke to people. I told them about my solution and what we're after. And from there, like they introduced us to others who, so that's why I said like luck has a very important role, because I think we've been really lucky from these encounters. So yeah, like it's really a lot of meeting people, talking to them,
Networking, going for
networking.
events, startup events.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next question is from Shannon. Shannon, do you want to ask the question, or should I read it? Read it out. So the question from Shannon is, what signals did you look for to know you were reaching product market fit? Earlier, you mentioned when customer pay, but what if at the very early stage? Any suggestions?
So what signals would show? Okay, so
Did you
yeah,
look out for when
okay,
you were
so
reaching product
ultimately,
market?
customer paying for your service, that's the ultimate like signal for your product market fit. But before that, right, you're saying like
All
what
right. Yes.
what are other signals that indicate?
Yes.
It's a tough one because we've been sort of misled a few times thinking that we have something
Mm.
when actually in fact like people are not willing to pay for it. So I think every time you try and close a client, so you should be trying to close clients as much as possible. Every time you try to close them and it doesn't happen, you should always go back and reflect and see why it didn't happen, and try and like figure out, is it a cost issue or is this problem really not worth solving, right?
Yep.
Because if it's a cost issue, then maybe your pivot is not changing your entire business. Maybe your pivot is changing your price point and the number of customers that you need to hit your target, right? So then you would have a very different distribution in terms of like being a SaaS versus a enterprise solution partner. So yeah, so I think it's a tricky question to answer.
Yes.
Yeah, so the best you
Yeah.
can do is like every failure to close, like
You
try
look
and
back.
get as much information. Look at it. Don't look at failure as like oh this is a negative thing, right? You should look at it as like this is a learning opportunity, and you're trying to find why the customer said no, why the customer went with someone else, and if you can get as much information as many data points on it, it will really help you on your next round on the next client that you're about to speak to.
Yep. I think Joshua, you hit a very good point here because a lot of startup founders, when they're first starting out, right, the hardest is really to validate how do you find product market fit. And a lot of times, they may not be at a stage where customer actually pay. But it's a very good one that you shared that even though it's a failure, you did not close a sale, but looking back at the data points and perhaps even asking the customer for a feedback, right, that could help you determine, is it a price or could it be a messaging thing, right? Or the value perceived, right? Yeah.
Yes. I actually still keep in touch with a lot of the customers that said no to me. We're still meeting up. We're still having like having coffees. It's not the end of the relationship. Yeah.
Thanks, Joshua.
Okay, so we've got another question from Marianne Leong. Joshua, how did you approach the C-suite and HODs that they are willing to tell and show you their business process workflows, especially in an emerging market where businesses may not understand the value or importance of your product?
Okay, so let me just clarify. The question is, how do I approach them?
How did you approach the C-suites and HODs that they are willing to tell and show you their business process workflows?
Okay, so again, like it's as a startup, leading with value is how you would get there. So I've sat in a room with like the C-suites, and like the reason why they say, okay, sign this NDA and I'm going to set up a meeting with the operational guys for you to figure out like where you can help with this process, even without doing a background check on the company and the profile, the portfolio and all that, is because we actually came to them with a solution that is tailored to them. So it's leading with value again. It's like, look, we are not the most we don't have the most track record, but we are here, and we are intense enough for you to want to work with us. Yeah.
And based on your personal experience or preference, which one do you actually prefer between B2B versus B2C, especially for AI?
Okay. So personally, I think B2B is a bit easier to begin with because you are working with fewer customers. B2C, you would be, it's like many clients, like you have many customers who may not have that much of a say on what kind of product you're building, but your product has to be really solid, and they they have to be able to operate it without a lot of hand holding. So they're both equally challenging. You pick your poison one, right? It's I don't think there's a one is better than the other. If your problem so happens to be a B2C problem, it's just a different approach, yeah, than a B2B. Wait, sorry, did I answer the question? What was the question? Like, which one do I prefer, right?
Yes. Do you prefer personal preference? Which one do you prefer,
Personal
B2B or
preference.
B2C?
Yeah, so I think I would go with B2B like for now, because that's what I'm doing. But if a B2C idea comes our way and it happens to be a solid, like, high impact problem, like, I would consider it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no name, it's anonymous though, so I hope it answers your question. All right, so we have two questions from Max. Max, Joshua, you mentioned that you pivoted a lot. How do you know it's time to pivot, and how would you know it's due to not asking from one more customer?
Okay, that's a good question. So, how do you know it's time to pivot, and how do you know whether you're just not talking to the right customer, lah, right? Is that what you're saying? I think, okay, so the first part, I think the answer is, again, like, if nobody is signing your contract, or like accepting your sale, then it is probably time to pivot. Like, that, it's a sign that like you are gathering a lot of interest, but you're not able to close. So either pivot. So it may not mean that you have a shit idea, right? It could just mean that your price point is off from the value that you're delivering.
Mhm.
So then maybe the pivot is a business model pivot. You bring down the price point, and you see how you can serve more markets, and you see how you can then, like, work with resellers to help your sales process reach more people, and then you're more, it's more of a distribution problem, right? So, like, so the clues to, I think, if there's a one theme that is going around today, is that, like, closing a client is the most important signal that you're after. And if it's not always that you have a bad idea. It could just mean that you don't have the right price point, and you need to pivot your business model. The second part of the question was like, how do you know you just not spoken to the right customer? I think, again, like, if let's say it's the price point, maybe you're talking to, maybe you've been selling to SMEs all this while, and you should be selling to larger multinational corporations who can afford it and who see the value that way. Maybe that's the clue. I think the only way you, like, for you to decide which is, because targeting corporations and targeting SMEs, like, a very different ball game as well. So you have to consider whether whether it's something that you want to pursue, or reduce your price point. Yeah.
Okay, so he continues. Additionally, building on the new initial customer, how did you move from initial prospecting to scoping and closing the deal? How long did that process take? And why did the two case studies pick you rather than other solution provider or doing it internally?
Right. So, building on the, yeah. Okay. So so I'll answer the question first. Like, how long did it take? And the reality is, it's longer than you think. So every time a client says yes to you, you got to factor in a few more weeks before they actually sign the contract. It's not like, oh yes, let's start work tomorrow. There is a process there. And so if you think if you look at your sales pipeline and you're not talking to enough people, like you whatever amount of, like, whatever number that you want to close, when you have to factor in, like, maybe times 1.5 lah, right, of the time to close them, because it does take time. Yeah. So yeah, that was the first part, right? Like, how long did it take?
Yeah, the second part is why did the 2 case studies pick you rather than another solution provider or doing it internally?
So I think I've touched on a lot of things that kind of answered this question already. So yeah, like, lead with value, make sure that your value is higher than the cost that you're charging for, and yeah, and luck, really.
So on that topic, how do you stay ahead of the curve with all the new solutions coming out every single day? And as you mentioned, big players like Google, OpenAI releasing new solutions that wipes out AI startups. In short, how do you differentiate yourself from competitors since the barrier of entry is relatively low, and how do you be defensible versus the large incumbents?
Yeah, okay. Very, very good question. I think in order for us to be defensible, there's a few ways we can build a moat for our startup. So one is you are heavily integrated to that particular clients or that industry. So you already have made the links into all their solutions, and it's easy for them to pick you, because if they pick you, you have done it before, and you're offering something that is way more integrated than what ChatGPT or Google would do, because that's not their game. So you own some kind of, like, you own some kind of industry vertical that you have a moat on. Another way is you maybe, I mean, and this may not apply to all the startups out there, but you own the distribution. So example is, like, let's say you are an accounting software and you have that distribution already of users, and rolling out an AI feature within that accounting software is something that Google and OpenAI cannot do. So you have that distribution mode. And then I guess another way would be, like, you have data that OpenAI and Gemini don't have. So you have some kind of data mode, because, like, you have access to this data from the industry because you're linked to it somehow. And like, let's say law, for example, right? So that's another way to set yourself apart and make your company defensible. So yeah, I guess, like, the analogy that the best analogy that I heard before is like your Google and OpenAI is like your supermarket. They offer your pre-cooked meals and all the ingredients there. And your AI startup is like a restaurant that's open up next to the supermarket. So your value as a restaurant is not to go and take the pre-cooked meal and serve it and microwave it and serve it, because that's like your GPT wrappers lah. Eventually, like, nobody's going to eat there anymore, because, like, they can do it themselves for cheaper. So, but why people go to a restaurant is, like, because they actually, you're actually delivering a more tailored experience to them. Like, you're doing the work of like taking out the ingredients and your experience that they don't have of the chef prepare the meal for them, and, like, all these things are the value that you bring. So it's important to kind of have that in mind, to recognize what is pre-cooked meal from a restaurant and what is, like, restaurant levels solution you're providing.
Very nice analogy there. Max, I hope it answers your questions. Okay, so we have a final question from of the day from David Chong. He's SEO strategies, working both in traditional SEO and brand visibility in LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, and all that. So he mentioned that he's also built a custom GPT in ChatGPT that help content rank on the first page in just 24 hours. Wow, that's impressive. So David's question is, what's the best way to transition from building custom GPTs to a more scalable, sellable solution?
Wait. Let me just get the first part first. You were able to rank something on
First page of search
first page
result
of
in
the
just
search
24
result.
hours.
We need to talk after this. David Chong. Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah, I think in terms of marketing, you're an SEO, like I've got a lot to learn from you. so let's connect after this. Yes, let's
David,
connect. Maybe I'll be happy to, like, you can drop me a LinkedIn, or and then we can arrange for a different session to have a chat. But your question is, what's the best way to transition from building custom GPTs to a more scalable solution? Your custom GPTs are basically you pay premium, and then like you can feed in your system prompt to the GPT, and then you can feed in like certain data sources to the GPT, right? Like
Yeah,
like
correct.
GPT stuff.
So I built a knowledge base.
Mhm.
Then it's under the $20 subscription plan.
Yep. Okay, so so how do you become more scalable and have a more sellable solution? So I'm very familiar with this because this was the first time where OpenAI rolled out GPT Store, and it killed my initial idea for the startup. So I'm very familiar with this GPT thing. And one thing that GPT doesn't do, like OpenAI's GPT doesn't do, is that it there's a few things actually. So the first thing is that you need a paid subscription to use GPT. And if you're talking about you wanna sell like, let's say, your solution to a market that doesn't have the, like, you want to sell your solution to a market that doesn't require them to pay for the monthly subscription, then that's one of the edge. The second part is whatever GPT that you create on the store, and you put it into publication, right? Like anyone with that link and a paid subscription can use it without your knowledge. So if you're trying to withhold certain information, or like there's some data mode that you already have that you don't want others to access, that GPTs they don't provide that gatekeeping, because it doesn't care. As long as you have a link, that person can use it. Then the third thing is you don't know how people are using your GPTs also. So there's no logging, there's no tracking of like how people are using it. So you don't know whether your GPTs are providing the answers correctly, or whether like what kind of insights into the questions that people are asking. You would have no access to that. So one quick way to do it is whatever this is, and I know I kind of like said GPT wrapper is the wrong thing to do, but if you have some kind of data mode, and you're wrapping you're putting a GP, like a OpenAI's API to make it more accessible, then that is a solution that is worth building now. So yeah, so best way, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, but yeah.
Is there another platform whereby I can transfer all this knowledge base to, apart from using custom GPT? Just like you said, is it can also be easily reverse engineered to a certain extent, if it's on custom GPT.
Yeah, so I'm not the most familiar with this, but I know you could build your own. If you find somebody who has experience, like any developer who has experience in development, like they can easily read the OpenAI docs and figure out how to create a custom site for it. I think that would be probably the way I would go with, because usually, I mean, if this is something that you're going to go in full on as a startup, then that would be the best way to do it. by actually owning the code base. If not, if you want to quickly test an MVP, like your GPTs is already good enough lah. But I know they don't give you insights into the usage and all the metrics. Like if you have a YouTube video, they give you all the insights, right? Like GPTs don't. So yeah, so that's the part that's lacking.
Okay, Ken, thanks. Thanks for the talk.
All right. But yeah, well done on ranking on the search SEO. Okay. Any more questions?
Anybody has
no,
any more
yeah.
questions? No, that's the last question. There's yeah, so that's the last question for today. It's been a really great session so far with so many people who's tuned in, asking you a lot of key questions for you. So Joshua, thank you so much for giving us your time today. I believe today's session will be incredibly useful for those here taking forward their AI journey. Again, I would like to say as a quick reminder, today's session with Joshua is actually part of the upcoming 64th cohort of Alpha Startups Pre-Accelerator. Applications are now open. If you're looking to learn how to start a startup, run an AI startup, please apply to the upcoming cohort today. So the link, right now I'm going to share it in the chat. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joshua, for being with us today.
Thanks, Nara. I had a really good time here. Yeah, thanks for organizing.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
All right. Take care.